channel Biology classes. In the previous classes, we have discussed about numerous types of bacterial, viral, protozoan diseases. In fact, it becomes highly essential for us also to understand how to counteract those microorganisms which cause us infections or diseases. On that aspect, we are going to discuss today about one of the very important topic, that is immunity. We all exist in a society which is potentially having innumerable microorganisms like virus, bacteria, protozoa, fungi and many other microbes. So it becomes important for us to see and understand their ability to in fact cause the diseases. We need to have good healthy practices, we need to have good hygiene, both personal as well as community hygiene. Indeed, the government and non-governmental organizations are taking innumerable steps to avoid our interaction with the microorganisms which causes infections. Yet, we are susceptible to so many different types of diseases. On that note, let me tell you, if the bacteria or virus, for example, if we consider, they are capable of invading our bodies and they are also have the ability to in fact multiply their selfish genes if we do not have the particular immune mechanisms. When our body is interacted by any type of microorganism, it develops different types of immune mechanisms. So that is particularly very important to understand. And when I am talking about immunity, basically immunity means resistance to disease. Now, as I said you, this resistance to disease, how it is developed? This is because of the immune responses, the immune system which exists in our body, which provides us with so many different types of immune responses. So, this is the introduction which I have given you for the immunity. So, moving ahead, dear friends, let us discuss about the types of immunity. Now, we know that immunity is something which is, which gives resistance against diseases. It might be any type of disease. Based on how the immunity is given, whether it is specific to a particular bacteria, virus or to the protozoa or fungi, or whether it is non-specific. That means whether it has a generalized effect for all bacteria, virus, protozoa and fungi. For example, I am just telling you, understand that. Based on that, we can basically classify the immunity into two types. One is innate immunity and the second one is acquired immunity. Innate immunity is also referred to as non-specific immunity, whereas the acquired immunity is called as specific immunity. So, let me tell you first about the innate immunity. Innate immunity, why do we refer it as innate? Okay, let me tell you, because it is present since birth. It is congenital. We can find it from the birth itself. We can have this type of immunity. So this is one important aspect to understand. Now let me give you one example. Say for example, if we consider this innate immunity, let us say we have, for example, virus, bacteria, protozoa, then we have fungi or any other types of microbes. So this innate immunity has generalized effect against all these types of microbes. I mean to say, it will not specifically act against bacteria or specifically act against virus or the other microbes. It will act in a generalized manner with respect to all the types of microbes. Hence, it will have generalized effect. So, I hope you are noting these points, which is essential for us to understand. Innate immunity is called as, also called as the non-specific immunity. Non-specific immunity. Dear friends, non-specific or generalized effect, both in different manners mean the same actually. So anyway, non-specific, again I am going to tell you that it is not specific against any of the type of microbes. It will have the generalized effect. In a similar manner, it will act against all the types of microbes, and it is not much effective when compared to the acquired immunity, the other type of immunity which we are going to discuss in the coming sessions. Anyway, so this is the short introduction about the innate immunity. Further, when we take into consideration the barriers which provide the innate immunity, we have 4 of them. One is, we have physical barriers. Secondly, physiological barriers, cellular and cytokine barriers. So here barriers basically indicate the structures or the enzymes or any other bodily chemicals which in fact interfere with the functioning of the bacteria. Either they may damage the cell wall of bacteria, or they damage the metabolic functions of the microorganisms. They lead to the death of microorganisms, so that the bacteria does not cause infection, the virus does not cause infection, or for that matter any other microbe does not spread from one body part to the other body part, making the condition from acute to chronic. Anyway, so I hope you understand that. So now we are going to discuss these factors. After discussing this, you will be very clear with the innate immunity. So this is about the basic aspects about the innate immunity. Yes, my dear friends, let us now elaborately understand the innate immunity, taking into account the barriers of it. Now, firstly we have physical barriers. What are the important factors which are included under the physical barriers? One is, we have the mucous membranes. Okay, before that, in fact, we can include skin, and then we have cilia. Together with these 3, we have mechanical actions. Now, let me tell you that when we consider the skin is a very tough structure which is in fact impermeable, does not allow the movement of any of the foreign components or for that matter the microorganisms so easily. Anyway, so these 2 important aspects. Why it is tough, why it is permeable? Because of the presence of one important protein called keratin. As we all know that keratin is very tough again and fibrous in nature. So anyway, so these are the important aspects we need to consider under physical barriers of innate immunity. That is, first one is what we are discussing here, the skin. So the skin acts as the first line of defense. Why am I saying this first line of defense? Because if the bacteria has to invade our body, then it has to cross initially the outer layer, that is the skin, which is not in fact so easy for the microorganisms like bacteria or virus or any other. Anyway, so when in fact we observe that the skin basically keeps on getting dried up, and also it carries the microorganisms along with it. When we in fact regularly bath or when we regularly wash our body parts, basically, so what happens? This wipes out even the microorganisms along with the dead skin cells. So anyway, so that is why I am telling you, that is one factor in fact. But other than that, we also have, as I said the protein called as the keratin, so which provides the first line of defense. So we need to remember this. Moving ahead, let me tell you about the mucous membranes. See, our respiratory tracts, urinogenital tracts, as well as the digestive tracts are lined by the mucous membranes. So they secrete the mucus, which traps the microorganisms and makes them immobile, makes their movement difficult. In fact, movement itself is not possible when they are trapped in the mucus produced by the mucous membrane. The mucus is very sticky in nature. It is highly, viscous. In fact, so when any of the microbe gets trapped, then really the movement is very difficult. Anyway, so alongside that, okay, let us consider now if these three tracts which produce the mucus, the bacteria or the virus or any other microbe has passed these mucous membranes. Further we have cilia. So that is what the third one and the most important again. What is the function of cilia? Basically, these are finger-like projections lining the nasal passages. So, if the microorganisms move further, escaping the mucous membranes, they get pushed away by the cilia towards the pharynx region. Again, from the pharynx region, they are carried away to the esophageal region. From there to the digestive tract, and they are eliminated through the feces. So that is very important aspects about the skin, mucous membrane, cilia, which provide the barriers for the innate immunity. Naturally it is present by birth, that we need to understand. It is congenital. Okay. Now moving ahead, my dear friends, we also have one more very important barrier which is included under physical barriers, that is mechanical actions. As we all know, in our regular life, when we interact with the microorganisms, we tend to in fact have these actions. The first one, we have sneezing. Then let me give you one more example, cough or coughing. And then thirdly, let me tell you, closure of eyelids. So all these in fact mechanical actions, what they do, they stop the entry of the microorganisms either to the mouth or through the nose or to the eyes. Okay, so that is what they do. And in fact, when they perform that particular activity, believe me, we are well protected from the dust particles as well as the microorganisms which may be present in the dust particles or which may enter directly. So these are the important barriers with respect to the innate immunity. Let me tell you, my dear friends, let me remind you that the innate immunity is having generalized effect against all the microorganisms. It is present by birth and it is non-specific. It is not directed specifically against any of the microbial agents. So this is about the physical barriers of innate immunity. Okay, moving to the second barrier of innate immunity, that is physiological. This physiological barrier includes the body temperature, the pH of the body fluids, or the body secretions which alter the metabolic aspects about the bacteria and check their growth. Okay, so with respect to especially pH can definitely alter the, what I can say, the metabolic activities of different types of bacteria and viruses or any other microbes. But when it comes to the body secretions which are included here, there are numerous of them. Firstly, let me tell you, we have the lysozyme enzyme which is secreted in the tears. It is also secreted in the human milk, in the nasal secretions, and also in the saliva you can find. So they have antibacterial activity. Basically they damage the cell wall of bacteria and check their growth. This is the first one. Moving ahead, we have secondly human milk, which is secreted from the mammary glands. So human milk has two important antibacterial agents here. One is lactoferritin and we have neuraminic acid. So they also make the bacteria immobile and check their growth. They can also act on bacteria, that is they can also be antibacterial in nature. Thirdly, let me tell you, we have mucus which is secreted from the mucous membranes of the body, that is urinogenital tract, respiratory tract and our genital tract, the digestive tract. Okay, these mucus, now as already said by me, can directly make the bacteria or any other microbes entry, immobile. In fact, the initial stages itself in the respiratory tract, it can make it, or further if it slides down to the other different digestive tract or to the urinogenital tract, there also as the mucus is secreted, they can check their growth. The second one, further let us say, if they pass out the action of mucus also, the microbes have to again interact with the gastric juices and bile. So that is also the important physiological factor, the body secretions, that is gastric juices and bile. So moving ahead, let me also tell you about the skin. See, skin as a physical barrier we have discussed, but as a physiological barrier, it has two important glands. One is sudorific glands and the another one is sebaceous glands. So they secrete the sweat and the oil respectively. In fact, these sweat and oils have more of lactic acid and fatty acids in them, and they in fact have antiseptic effect on bacteria and other microbes. So this is the fifth one. Moving ahead, few more examples if I want to give you. Let us say we have ceruminous glands. These ceruminous glands are present in the ear. So they secrete wax. This wax makes the entry of the dust particles or the insects or for that matter any other microorganism immobile. They get trapped under the wax. So they also provide us the protection against the entry of microorganisms inside the body. So when we consider, say for example, certain parts of the body like beneath the soles, where there is absence of these glands, alright, sudorific and sebaceous glands, they are more susceptible to fungal infections. We know that. Other than this, we can say even certain microbial flora which is present, the microbes which are present where in the body choroid secrete certain inhibitory substances. These inhibitory substances are very effective against the other types of microorganisms, the pathogenic microorganisms. So these microbes which secrete the inhibitory substances are non-pathogenic. Make a note of it. Then eighth, let me say now also include here one more very important factor, that is from the mucous membranes of vagina there is secretion of certain inhibitory substances like hydrogen peroxide, for example, and even antibiotics, which makes the the bacteria, in fact they immobile, as well as they lead to the death of most of the microbes, including the bacteria. So these are the important aspects which I just wanted to keep in front of you with respect to the physiological barriers of. So we have the third barrier which provides us the innate immunity, that is cellular. So these are internal defense barriers. And these cellular barriers form the second line of defense. Now I have told you before what is the first line of defense. We have first line of defense, that is skin. The second line of defense is the cellular barriers. These include the different types of WBC cells. Like for example, let me tell you, we have monocytes and neutrophils, which are generally present in the blood, and we have macrophages also, which are generally present in the tissues, which provide us with cellular barriers. Monocytes and neutrophils have an important process called phagocytosis, by which they give us defense against the microbes. These macrophages tissues also has generally phagocytosis only. Apart from these two, we also have certain special type of cells, WBC cells, which are called as natural killer cells, or we also refer them to as NK cells. So these cells have important process called as perforation. They generally do not have phagocytosis, but to the process of perforation they kill the viruses generally. And as I already told you, these WBC cells have phagocytosis process through which they act against the microorganisms. Friends, to understand the cellular barrier, we need to go ahead with two of the important processes. One is phagocytosis, which is shown by few of the WBC cells which are already said, that is one neutrophil and another one monocyte, and also the other WBC cells like macrophages also show the process called phagocytosis. So what is phagocytosis? First of all, let me tell you that phagus means here to eat, and cyte indicates cell. So in general we can say phagocytosis as a process of cell eating. Okay, so this is in general. In more particular, if I want to tell you the definition of phagocytosis, it is the process where the WBC cells engulf the microorganisms and digest it with the help of lytic enzymes. So here Let us go to the process now. There is an important process called chemotaxis. What is this? Say, from the injured cells, certain chemical components are released. These chemical components which are released will attract the, what we can say, WBC cells. When these WBC cells move to the injured site, they coat the microorganisms with antibody-like molecules called opsonins. These are antibody-like molecules. So these opsonins, when they coat the WBC cells, can easily identify which is bacteria and which is the body cell, or which are the other cells very easily. So once the microorganism, say for example like bacteria is identified, the bacteria will coat to the surface of the WBC cell. This is a WBC cell having the lysosome. To it, the bacteria gets attached on the surface. So that is called binding. Then furthermore, what happens? The third important process here is ingestion and intracellular killing. This bacteria, what happens? It moves inside because the pseudopodia covers this microorganism, and when it moves inside, it forms phagosome. It forms phagosome. What is phagosome? The bacteria, when it moves inside, it a vacuole-like organelle is created, that is called phagosome. Later, phagosome will fuse with the lysosome. Alright? So that when it fuses, definitely the lysosome has the antibacterial substances as well as the strong lytic enzymes in it, so that this bacteria is completely digested. And later, what happens here? Finally, the digestion, of the digested components of bacteria outside the WBC cell. So this is how, in general, the phagocytotic process occurs in our body with the help of the WBC cells. Moving ahead, my friends, even again under the cellular barriers, we have one more important process shown by one of the specialized type of WBC cells called as NK cells. That important process is called as perforation. So NK cells are non-phagocytic. That means to say they do not undergo the process of phagocytosis, and they are having very big granules in them. Generally, they have natural cytotoxicity. So, a cytotoxicity refers to something, where the quality of being toxic to the cells. That is what is cytotoxicity. So, they are toxic to the tumor cells especially. Furthermore, as these NK cells have certain specialized glycoproteins on their surface, which are in fact absent in other cells, so these help in identification of the virus infected cells. This is a virus infected cell which we have. So it can be easily identified with the help of the glycoproteins which are present on the surface of NK cells. So that is one important aspect. Further, what happens, as it is non-phagocytic, so it will not directly go and interact with the cell. So it releases certain important chemicals like cytolysine and also perforin. So with the help of the cytolysine and perforin, which are secreted in between the cells. This is NK cell, this is a virus infected cell. In between it releases, so that these chemicals damage the cell, lyse the cell, leading to its death. This is how perforation occurs in cells. So further, we need to also understand now that in the classes of the what I can say the physical, physiological and cellular, alright, we have discussed that innate immunity is provided by all this. Furthermore, we are left with cytokine. So let us discuss about the cytokine barriers, which also shows innate immunity. So finally, moving on to the final type of barrier in innate immunity, we have cytokine barriers, which are the special type of antiviral agents which are produced in very minute quantities in our body. They specifically active against the cancer, that is tumor cell, and also the as I said you, they are antiviral agents. They are very active against the virus infected cells. Okay, now we have different types of cytokine barriers. The most important among that is interferon. We have interferons. Secondly, we have lymphokines and also tumor necrosis factors. So all these provide special line of defense. They are providing what? Special line of defense. As I said you before, first line of defense is the skin. Second line of defense are the cellular barriers which we have discussed, and these are the special line of defense. And we also have third line of defense which we are going to discuss in future sessions with respect to acquired immunity. Now let us understand what is their role. Initially they were discovered in the year 1950s, where we did not have much technology to in fact produce in higher quantities. But after 1950s, the recombinant DNA technology, when it came into force, we had more production of all these, especially the interferon molecules, which are antiviral agents, which are, as I already said you, very much active against the cancer cells and also the virus infected cells. Moving ahead, let us understand their mechanism. It's a very simple mechanism. Let us consider, for example, we have one of the host cell which is infected by the virus. So what happens here? After it gets infected in very minute quantities, the virus infected cell will produce the interferons. These interferons further, move to the other cells. When they move to the other cells, they stop the viral reproduction, or they block it completely, so that this cell is not affected. So like this, one cell, anyway, it is affected, but further the other cells should not get affected by the virus. So that role will be performed by the interferons. These are the special type of antiviral agents, the most important among the cytokines. But we also have lymphokines and tumor necrosis factors, which also performs different antiviral properties and functions. So further, my dear friends, let me tell you that we have three different types of interferon. We have an interferon alpha, interferon beta and interferon gamma. So among this, the most common one is interferon alpha. It is used as antiviral agent, as I told you, in large quantities today through recombinant DNA technology or biotechnological processes we produce. So it is definitely very useful for reducing the cancer properties. One thing. Secondly, it is also effective against some of the viral diseases like hepatitis B and also AIDS. So there also in the AIDS it reduces the symptoms. So anyway, so these are the important aspects pertaining to cytokines. Special line of defense they provide. Furthermore, my dear friends, let me tell you from the beginning, innate immunity, we have discussed the physical barriers. Physical barriers are, very important for giving protection to our body, especially against microorganisms. They form first line of defense generally. Skin, mechanical actions, mucous membranes and cilia. Physiological barriers, as we have discussed, like for example we have lysozyme and wax is secreted from the ceruminous glands, sudorific and sebaceous glands secrete sweat and oil respectively, and then we have vaginal secretions, we have breast milk having neuraminic and the other important lactoferritin components. Anyway, cellular barriers with respect to monocytes, with respect to macrophages and other WBC cells we have discussed, and cytokines with respect to interferons, lymphokines and tumor necrosis factors we have discussed. So please, in brief, I request everyone to understand all these processes. Okay, so these are the important aspects for today. So I request everyone to like, subscribe and share the information of this class with all your fellow mates. So thank you very much. Keep updated for more videos of Biology classes.